Oh, yeah?
I'm gonna talk about some stuff.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm serious. Oh, you're laughing now, but you won't be laughing, pal, when I get done with this.
All right, well, what you got on your mind?
I don't know. It's not a big deal. I was kidding.
I thought you were serious.
No, I wanted to say congratulations to my homies at Nui. They have they started a company called Keto Cookie,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have been making and baking their cookies themselves, and having their family do it. And they've been sending us products for a long time. And they're formerly known as Keto Cookie, and they changed the name because people were coming to them saying like, hey, what's a healthy cookie to eat? And they would say, well, our keto cookie's good. And the people are like, I'm not on a keto diet. So people were getting confused, and so that's why they changed the name.
Yeah.
And then also they're trying to get the cookie into more people's hands. Kids, adults giving a kid a keto cookie.
Mm-hmm.
Kids like, no way, I'm not going to eat a diet cookie,
Yeah.
right? And so anyway, they've been working hard, but it's cool. They're out of their mom's kitchen. They were cooking in their mom's kitchen, and having the whole family scoop the cookie dough and cook it and everything, which I think is cool. I think that's great, like bootstrapping it that way. That's really cool. But then they started to raise some money. They were able to raise some money, and now they have a full kitchen. They're able to cook as many cookies as they need, because that was another hard thing for them, is to try to keep up with the demand.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be 100% transparent. I don't like all their flavors. Sorry, guys. But they had a snickerdoodle one that's actually really, really good. And they got a couple other flavors that are good. So if you get a chance, check them out. It's NUI.
Oh.
And they're just guys that have been working hard. They're guys that, like, my brother and I have known for a long time. And we actually had a really cool meeting with them one day. And I said, hey, meet me at Bulletproof Coffee. I said I have another meeting there, and so it'd be great to meet up with you guys. And they were really in for a real treat, because I was meeting with Ron Penna from Quest Nutrition. And man, these guys just got hit with like all kinds of you know how Ron is, right?
Yep.
So these guys got hit with all kinds of cool information. But congrats to them. They're doing some cool stuff. And then they sent me some information yesterday that just absolutely floored me. I mean, when sometimes a friend will text me, I'll kind of like check their Instagram and look at stuff. And so that's how I was kind of made more aware of, the direction they're going with their cookies and stuff like that. But I thought it was super cool. He's like, hey, did you hear the news? And it was about Quest. Do you guys know about this?
No.
I just pulled it up.
Yeah, Quest Nutrition has been sold to
Simply Good Foods Co.
Right, Simply Good Foods Co., which is basically they carry Atkins meals, Atkins diet, Atkins bars, the drinks, all that kind of stuff, which plays to a much older crowd. But that's a gigantic company, and they sold it for about an estimated $1 billion. So congrats to our boys over at Quest. Congrats to Ron Penna to start a new chapter. And everybody else involved. Tom Bilyeu obviously is involved in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron's partner, Michael, what's his name on there? I'm sorry.
I'll find it.
I forget. Sorry, Michael. Anyway, I've met all of them before. Great people. Like I've had nothing but good things to say about Quest Nutrition. We love their bars. We eat them. We're highly addicted to them, so we got to be careful
Yeah.
that we don't eat all of them all the time.
Mike Osborne.
Mike Osborne. So anyway, congratulations to them. I love seeing that kind of stuff because it levels up everything in the fitness industry, and it's cool. I mean, who knows? Maybe Chris Duffin's company or maybe Matt Wenning's company. Not that I know that they want to sell it, but maybe they sell it to a big company like Rogue. And maybe they, are able to cash out and make a good amount of money and then go off and do another project. And I think that when things like this happen, it just opens the doors. I mean, we saw it with Primal Kitchen, with Mark Sisson's brand, and we're seeing it more and more. And that article in particular talks about how popular protein bars are. And we're getting into some advertising on the show, and right off the bat, we have two companies that have protein bars.
Yeah.
Coming to us, Perfect Keto and Quest, and look, there's room for everybody. Like the Perfect Keto bar, maybe somebody doesn't want the grams of fat because they're not on a keto diet, and so maybe they want the Quest bar. But maybe somebody's who's on a keto diet, it's like, well, I need more fat, and I don't know if the Quest bar is going to kick me out of ketosis, so I'm going to go with the collagen perfect bar,
Yeah.
And just different things for different people, right? And there's plenty of room. There's room for success for everybody. And when I met yesterday with the Mind Pump guys, we talked a lot about that, and we talked about collabing with them and doing some stuff with them, and I think it would be great. I think a lot of times people want to
Keep it to themselves. Yeah.
try to keep everything themselves, but really the truth is, if we were to interview Dorian Yates, the Mind Pump fans would say, I can't wait until you have Dorian Yates on your show.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not that they don't like us. It's just that maybe they're more fans of Mind Pump.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say it about us when it comes to some of the guests that Joe Rogan's had on. And sometimes we're like, oh, I can't wait for him to be on your show. And so it's not hate towards any one thing. It's just that there's a lot of room for a lot of us to be successful. And that's how this show is able to be successful, and all the other shows are able to gain some momentum as well. Anyway, we're going to dive into some cool stuff today, talking about some bodybuilding, talking about, whether it's worth it to go that deep into, because a bodybuilding show, you got to have a lot of restriction. But before we do that, it is Free Shirt Friday.
Oh.
And you know what happens on Free Shirt Friday. Andrew, start the music.
So for everybody that's listening, it's not getting an amazing
Don't adjust your
show right
cameras, and Nsima is more jacked than me.
So Mark and Nsima are just disrobing, I'll say. Yeah, they're barebacking it, throwing on this, what would we call it, olive drab slingshot Free Shirt Friday shirt. Oh my
I feel
gosh.
very militant. I feel like I can jump out of a airplane.
Andrew, you called this olive drab?
I think
is that
that's what it
actually
is.
the technical color?
Yeah, it is. It's a military color.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the color of this, though.
Well,
But, yeah,
it
it's close
is
enough.
now.
You made it be. You made it so.
Yeah. Heard
Just
it here
call
first
this
on
like
the podcast.
A muddy green, that's what I'd call it.
Muddy green. I like it.
Just changed it.
Brings out the color of your eyes.
Yeah, actually. Kind of.
I don't think I ever looked at your eyes before.
They're,
I've been looking at those pecs the whole time and those shoulders.
Yeah, they're brown.
Fantasizing. Dreaming. Thinking about possibilities.
All right, calm down, Mark. Not today.
I
Save
gotta
that for another day.
I gotta go. I gotta take a cold shower. So what's been going on? What's on your mind over there, Natty Professor?
With the bodybuilding stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this was something I was thinking about the other day, because bodybuilding is awesome. Like, the work you have to do to get on stage, right? The commitment you have to have. Any athlete that's able to do that gets a stage successfully. It's no matter if you win, like, yeah, you want to win, but even if you don't, it's a great accomplishment in and of itself, because not everybody takes that step to do that. But what I've noticed is that a lot of people, especially when you see everyone, competing, whether it be a natural or not, people just like want to head there. So a new lifter, right, will see people on the bodybuilding stage and say, hey, in a year or maybe 2 years, I want to step on stage. They don't have any dieting experience. Maybe they start working out more seriously. But there are a lot of consequences. Like, there are a lot of positive, but there are a lot of negative consequences to getting that lean that I don't think is spoken about that much.
I agree 100%. And it's like when somebody gets into powerlifting, I'm always like, oh man, like they probably don't know the whole story here. Like, there's some real pitfalls they kind of fall into, especially for some of the people that want to get big. It's like, okay, well, we can get big, but let's at least have some health, in the equation. Because once you become unhealthy, if you start to negatively impact your sleep, then it's going to negatively impact your lifts, and you're going to go backwards, and you're not going to get the progress that you're looking for. So sometimes when it comes to powerlifting, sometimes people fall down that rabbit hole. But we see it a lot with bodybuilding, because bodybuilding, there's no bodybuilding reminds me of like jumping up onto something. You can't like jump up onto this table slowly. You'll get killed. You'll fuck up your shins, right? You'll like fall. And bodybuilding kind of seems that way. Like, if you don't jump with as much force as you possibly can into it, you're not going to really look or turn into anything. So it's like, you better put your best foot forward, and you better really work your ass off for it. I think what gets to be hard is, it's like you have to be locked in right? You got to get yourself locked into a good diet, some good strategy in terms of cardio, some good strategies in terms of your eating, and some good strategy in terms of your actual lifting. And that's pretty easy to do, like on a Monday. It's pretty easy to do on like a Wednesday here and there. It's pretty easy to do sporadically in your training. Like I think everyone's probably pretty good with it that likes to work out. And they have these days where they feel on fire, and they might have these days where they feel lean. You know, we all kind of have a day where we feel a little leaner. We got days where we feel a little softer, right? But as a bodybuilder, you don't have time for those discrepancies. It's like you have to be on point all the time. So the only way that you're going to look like anything on stage is to get locked in and then to have a lot of consistency. And this is where you start to get you can get screwed up.
Yeah.
Because, 5 days in probably isn't so bad, but 5 weeks in, now you're starting to be really deprived of stuff. You have taken your caloric intake down, your energy output is high, and you start to turn into a zombie. And you start to become a person that you lose a lot of stuff, like even just like empathy. For some reason, your body doesn't even have any fucking room for empathy, which is lame, right? It doesn't make any sense. But you really don't care about other people. You're not affectionate. If you're with a significant other, like you don't want to show them any love for I don't know. It makes you like grumpy. You're trying to be like super focused because it's so hard to really explain. And the people that are listening right now that have been locked into it, they know. But our question is it a good idea to start with not just some bodybuilding exercise? I think we can all agree that bodybuilding is fantastic. Adding more protein to your diet, having some simple carbohydrate or some complex carbohydrates rather in your diet, probably a good idea. Keeping your fat in sort of moderation so that you can train good, recover well from your workouts, get a good pump when you're in the gym, because if you don't have any carbs, you're going to be kind of flat. So a lot of the bodybuilding principles, I think we can all agree, maybe doing some cardio here and there, we can all agree the bodybuilding principles are probably the number one place to start when it comes to lifting.
Yeah.
However, being a bodybuilder, that's what we're questioning today. Like, would that be a good place to start? And man, I don't know, because the actual bodybuilding routine, to actually get into the bodybuilding routine and to get on stage is one thing, but then coming out of it is another thing. And I think from a mental standpoint, it could be disastrous.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody. I think that a lot of times people think that just women really struggle with like, this quote unquote feeling of being fat or being heavy. It's like, guys really struggle with this as well. And, we here at Slingshot, we're designing, shorts, and we're messing around with shirts and doing some of our own cut and sew stuff. And what a company like Lululemon has done so brilliantly with men and women's clothing is the clothing feels good, it feels comfortable, it accentuates like your good spots and doesn't draw any attention to anything that might not be working out so great for you. So for me, if I gain any fat, it's kind of like in my lower back. And I've had shorts before that hug the muffin top, and it drives me crazy because I'm like, man, like, okay, I have more fat there than maybe I want, but I'm not fat. And I'm like, that's making me feel fat. And so they have shorts that have kind of a wider band on them that fit you better. Even the shorts that we make are like that, has a wider or taller waistband that's not going to pinch into your sides. It's like, dude, I got like 4 pounds of fat on me. Like, give me some goddamn slack here, right? But kind of the point is that you can get so caught up in that and seeing just the negative stuff that you have, seeing the little extra baggage that you have, and maybe doing a bodybuilding show could really send your mind into a crazy tailspin.
Yeah, it can definitely amplify that. And, when you were saying like the body image issues that a lot of people think mainly women have it, I think just as many men have it. They just don't talk about it as much, or it's not reported as much. But, when you get that lean, right, I feel like I want people to understand that, I've done a bunch of shows. Mark's done shows. We don't think bodybuilding is like bad inherently. We're not saying you shouldn't do bodybuilding, but I think it is really important that any type of athlete that wants to get into it knows exactly what they're getting into. First off, the relationships part that you talked about, right? I always make sure to tell, especially first time individuals that are stepping on stage, if you have a partner, talk to your partner and let them know, hey, as I start to get leaner, you may notice me getting grumpier. You may notice that I'm gonna try to work to make this work, but you may notice that I may get a little bit distant. I may not be as touchy-feely or whatever. All those things are going to happen. For some people, they don't. For me, they did. For a lot of people, I know they did. But you got to let them know, because a lot of relationships have been ruined because of someone stepping onto a bodybuilding stage. And that's the last thing you want to get ruined, because you want to get on stage and get shredded, right? So if your partner goes into this understanding what you're about to do and understanding the things that are about to happen to you, then when it happens, they know it's not because you hate them or because you don't like them. It's because of what you're physically going through with your hormones and all of that stuff. And the body image stuff is huge, man. Like when we had Nick right here, it was really, well, not actually the body image stuff, the food stuff. When he mentioned the bulimia thing
and the binging and all that,
and the binging, I was like, dang, I had that deep of a problem, because I did that same thing.
Yeah.
There'd be times in my prep where maybe I'd binge, or even post prep, man. This is like, okay, post prep, I've gained a little bit of body fat, I feel okay. There have been times post prep where I ate a lot of food, just like because I just felt like I needed to eat a lot of food. I felt kind of guilty about it. I'm like, shit. And then I did some cardio and a really, really hard workout. And I was like, okay, I'm just not going to let this happen that often. But that is bulimia, man. Like, that's a form of bulimia. That's not good. So, and that wasn't happening prior to all of these shows and stuff. I was just concentrating on getting big, being fit. But it can get to you. And then also, like, the way I saw my body. After getting that lean, 225 to 229, single-digit body fat, right? Shredded. Then having to put body fat back on because you need to put body fat on to be healthy, and thinking that myself when I was like 255 or whatever, I still had visible abs, but thinking, I'm kind of fat. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you're fat in comparison.
To
what you were on stage. You're fat. Like
exactly.
That's in your head. Like it's it's there.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's probably also just hydration too. It's water weight. You're eating more food. Everything's just kind of holding on. You also have a rebound, right? So like you're gonna weigh, someone that is let's say someone that's 200 pounds. If you're gonna do a bodybuilding show, it's highly possible that you're gonna be like 170 and maybe even I don't know, like
could
maybe
get
even
lighter.
Yeah, it could be even lighter.
Yeah.
And that's going to make you look the best, and not only make you look the best, but make you look the biggest. So even if your arm size comes down considerably, just because it's more defined, you're going to look awesome. Think about some of the leanest guys and girls that you see like on Instagram and stuff. Sometimes they look, Brooke Ence comes to mind. Brooke Ence is not a big person.
Yeah.
She's not heavy. She's not a heavy person. She's not small. She's not tiny framed or anything either, but she's fucking jacked. And when you see her on Instagram, see her doing a rope climb, everyone's like, steroids. But then you have her here and she's next to us and she's training with us and she's an amazing athlete. And so people could still, say whatever they want. They could still judge it whatever way they want. But like, you look at her, you're like, she's not really. Rich Froning, same way. Rich Froning in a CrossFit workout after he's done some burpees and push-ups and stuff, he looks like a Mr. Olympia competitor. He doesn't normally look like that. Now he's got a pump going, and he's super lean. And so you're going to think, that some of these athletes are on stuff, and maybe some of them are. But the point is that you're going to look the best being the absolute leanest that you can be. That means you have to pull off a lot of body fat. And when you pull off a lot of body fat, the only thing to happen after that is to put body fat back on.
Yeah.
Like your body is just going to. You're not going to, even yourself, who's leaner than your average person by a long shot, your body fat percentage is probably, 50 or 70% better than your average American, right? Like it's way in the other direction. You're single digit, and a lot of people are 15 or 20%, right? And so for those people, if they had a shift or they lost some weight and they felt better, maybe in a t-shirt versus feeling better in a big puffy like hoodie or whatever, like to cover up whatever they got going on, they're not going to notice as much when they fluctuate a little bit in body weight. Whereas someone that gets way down, you're going to be so critical of just a 5-pound swing one way.
Yeah.
And even to sometimes you could lose a bunch of weight and get shredded and be like, man, I'm small. And then now you got another,
Yeah.
you're like, man, I lost too much muscle. Like, I don't look good for this. I've had a lot of friends that have competed. And even for myself, when I competed, I always felt like I had enough calories in there. So like, I didn't even, Hani Rambad, who helped me, my calories didn't even like really they didn't keep diving down the whole time. He got me to a certain level, and then he had me do like a little extra cardio. So there's a little bit more output, but I was still eating like 3,500 calories.
Sheesh.
I was, maybe on a lower day, maybe 3,000 or so, but like it was still pretty high.
Yeah.
And I still felt all the same things that you're talking about. The other thing is the amount of time it takes. Bodybuilding takes a lot of time. Now, maybe if you're a seasoned bodybuilder, maybe you can figure out ways for it to take less time. But like, I never posed before, so there's a lot of posing that had to go on. You don't have to worry about this, but I had to worry about tanning.
Yeah.
It makes a difference too if you have a little bit of a base. Like, you need a base. You can't just go and put the tanning stuff on. Like, it doesn't. That helps, but you need to actually have a base with your tan. So posing, tanning, that can take a lot of time. In addition to that, you have your actual training, your actual lifting sessions. It's not uncommon for bodybuilders to do double days. Sometimes it's cardio and lifting, and sometimes it's doubled up on the lifting. So we're talking about, it's probably 10 hours a week that you're in the gym, maybe more, maybe 12. You got 2 hours, 5-6 days a week, right? So it's like, man, a lot of time's going into this. And so that's, I think, why you get short with your significant other, because you're like, I don't have, like, I can't fit you in. You don't fit into the time. Like, I got to eat. And then, you put your food away, and then it's like 2 hours later, you got to eat again. And it's like, man, it's just I forgot about the food prep, how much time that takes. That takes as much time as the gym probably, and all the eating. It's just like, it's an endless cycle, man. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. There's,
what
were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, would you guys say that that's like all part of it? Like, being short with your significant other, like, there's been times where like I want to get to bed to go train the next day, but I'm like, dude, I can't be a jerk right now. Like, I can't just look at, my girl's side of the family and be like, I gotta go because I gotta go train in the morning. Like how hard is that? That like, like in comparison to like everything else, like you kind of almost letting go of like who you are, right? To become this other mutant or entity, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Personally, when I was going through that, I had to, like, from after my very first prep, like the few years before, I was like, okay, going into this one, I have to work to make things work well. So like in the second prep, when I got that lean again and leaner, I had to be cognizant and be like, okay, I may feel this way right now, but I literally cannot act the way I feel. I can't. Like, you have to be like, because you have to put, like, even though everything, like, first off, everything you're doing currently is putting yourself first in terms of your meals, your training, your sleep, all of that. You're putting yourself first. But there has to be a time where, okay, I got to help this person out too, because they're having to deal with my shitty ass, right? So I need to try and make it a little bit easier on them. So I don't think that has to be a part of it if you're cognizant of it in the beginning. Like, where you're headed, where your mind might be heading, where how bad you may be feeling. And you're like, okay, it's going to take work for me to be the same person I am now when I'm heavier, when I'm much leaner.
So it's just like preparing even more.
You got to prepare for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has to be a part of it, but if you don't know what's about to happen, right? And you just get there, then you won't even be thinking about it. You'll just be pissed. And then one day you're like, why am I pissed? Like, oh shit, I've been doing all this to my girlfriend or boyfriend. God, that sucks.
And we've seen, this kind of stuff happen time and time again too, when somebody gets into something new and they start having a hobby that's different than, like, bodybuilding is like very specific. Like, going to the gym is like one thing, right? But then entering into bodybuilding is different. So for a woman that starts to enter figure or fitness, who usually helps those people? A lot of times it's guys, right?
Yeah.
And then, who do we have admiration for? We have admiration for people that do things that we want to excel in. And so sometimes you'll see a leap. You'll see somebody will go, start going with another person because they entered this whole new thing, and as Andrew's pointing out, they end up kind of changing. Like it's kind of common sense that if you bodybuild, that maybe there would be a possibility that you would like somebody that is into like bodybuilding or into fitness more, is somebody that's leaner or shares some of the same, they're walking around with Tupperware, right? Mm-hmm. Like that might be an attraction to you. So you do have to be really paying attention to what you're doing. And I haven't been around bodybuilding a lot, so I don't know, exactly what happens with bodybuilding, but I have been to a lot of our trade shows and stuff. And you see, these people that had, it's kind of sad to see, but you see people who've had kind of, somebody that they've been in a relationship with somebody outside the fitness industry. And then the next time you see them at a show, they're with somebody that's in the fitness industry. And you're like, oh, you're kind of like, and look, man, that happens everywhere. It happens with police officers, firemen, anyone that gets caught up in their job, and anyone that starts to hang around other people for long periods of time. Sometimes that shit just happens, but it's all stuff to just pay attention to. It's all stuff to just know, because what a shitty way for a relationship to end just because you wanted to, roll the dice and see how lean you could get. Mm-hmm. And now you're kind of like all of a sudden attracted to somebody else, or so, it can lead you down a weird path. And so I think Nsima's point, I think, is just hitting the nail on the head. Like, just be aware of like what's going on. Just be aware of your mind, your mindset, how you're going to feel going through it. And some people are listening to this right now, and they're probably like, well, just don't deprive yourself so much. But there's bodybuilding doesn't really make a lot of sense. It does not as logical as we'd like it to be.
It's competitive starvation.
It really is. And I think there's been bodybuilders who've said it's a competition on who can like eat the least, who can really, and then also punish the crap out of yourself in the gym. And yeah, there's guys that grow into the show, and there's kind of the mass monsters, and there's kind of the Jay Cutlers and stuff. But like, those guys have been doing it for so long. They're super confident. They know exactly what they need to get to that next level. And that's kind of it's just a different level. But man, Jay Cutler came on our show, and he said his greatest, like a lot of the times when we have people on the show and we say, hey, have you had any regrets on anything? People almost always say, no, not really. I made this mistake, that mistake. And it's usually pretty minor. And he's like, I lost like the love of my life. Like I lost my soulmate, and that was a mistake. And it's like,
did you say it was because of competing?
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah. I thought that was great. Like I thought like, wow, like good on him to just be so honest, and he's in a good, healthy relationship now, and things are all good for him, which is awesome. But man, like that's the kind of stuff that can happen. Now let's kind of flip this around, because we're talking a lot of negative.
Oh, I want to mention one more thing real quick. Yeah. The one other thing I would just want people to think about too and understand is that like the effects that like the post competition can have on you. So we know that like getting lean, your hormones are affected drastically. Test goes down, cortisol goes up. A lot of things are affected drastically. It's not a great place to be. So afterwards, like for me, it took me like 6 months to start feeling normal again, for like my sex drive to come back, for my intensity in terms of the gym to come back, for like all of that to come back and be normal. So it can take a while to get your hormones back in place. And for women especially too, women that compete, like it's common that they'll either get oligorrhea or amenorrhea, which is like inconsistent periods or no period at all when they get that lean. And then they're like, when you come out of it, it's not just going to come back and be normal immediately. It could like, there's some women who's it's taken, I think 72 weeks for it to come back and be consistent. And then there's also things to remember, like it's probably not the best time if you're thinking of trying to have a kid. You know what I mean? You'll have to think about that too. Like, because if you want to have a child successfully, then you have to think about, okay, I'm not going to do that during my prep, but after my prep, I need to give my body a period of time to get healthy so I can potentially, think about that.
And the only way to have a child successfully is through the butt.
Through the butt.
You got to go through the back. So just maybe some women don't know that, but it's just, I'm not a doctor.
That's how it's done.
We're just here to educate.
Yeah. I have 2 kids, so I've I must have figured.
Andy.
Yeah, and she already hates me.
Oh man.
We were in the break room. So an employee here. We were talking about video games, of course. And then he's like, "But I got my fiance to play, games with me." It's like, "Oh, well, that only works a little bit." And he's like, "Yeah, my fiance already thinks I'm an asshole." And we just all start laughing. And she goes, "You can't bench your way out of this argument." It's like, oh my god. That just reminded me of all that when you said that she hated you. He's like, "Oh, my fiance thinks I'm such an asshole because all I do is talk about my bench."
She's learned to ignore me pretty good,
Really?
Yeah, what's funny is like she used to like pretend to like be into like my jokes and stuff,
Oh,
when we were first like dating, and then now I can't get her to laugh at anything. And
Oh my God.
she like pretended to like wrestling and all this, and it's all just a farce, man. Now I'm in for it.
She got you.
Yeah, she got me. She's
Yep.
like, "Oh, I love Stone Cold. I love The Undertaker. This is great." And then just hooked her talons into me, and now I'm screwed.
that's it.
Here we are, fucking 20 years later.
Yeah.
The same woman over and over and over every day. Oh my God.
Oh,
Hey.
no.
I just want to put her in a wood chipper. I mean, it's not really, it's anyway.
She doesn't listen to this anyway, so it doesn't.
No.
she's not-
Yeah.
That's the even funny part. Too.
Yeah.
I have no street cred at home. None. None. I go places and people are like, "Oh my God, it's Mark Bell." And people get all excited and they want to take a picture. I get no love.
I remember we filmed.
Quinn is worse. Quinn is
Oh,
even
yeah.
meaner.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember we filmed a Hustlemania, and I think the title was "My Wife Doesn't Watch My Videos." And it was funny because we had like, "Okay, do the sign off, Andy," and she's like,
Oh yeah, she had no idea what any of it was.
and he's
yeah.
like, "Strength." She's like, "Strength is," and then, like she said something way off, and it was so funny.
Strength
though.
is the plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Exactly. Yeah. Like the strength is
Came up with her
within
own-
you. Yeah.
came up with her own saying.
Oh man.
But as I was doing the bodybuilding show, and as I got, I had a pretty short prep for it. I was probably, and Andy is amazing because like we went to Malibu. We had this vacation plan. We were going to be there for a month. We were going to invite some friends and family and have a good time, enjoy some food, enjoy some drinks, and we had this kind of planned out. And then because I'm a monster, I turned it into like all business and lifting. Like I turned everything into business and lifting, and it was like we podcasted from there with Mike O'Hearn and Thomas DeLauer
Yeah.
and Stan Efferding, and like I had a new person over like every day, and then I was just like bodybuilding in the morning with O'Hearn.
Mhm.
Going to the gym at 4, but not coming back until like 9 because I would go to the gym and train, and then Venice is kind of set up nice where you can actually have good healthy meals kind of close by to the gym and stuff. So I'd walk there and then I'd like Uber back, and she was just like, she never saw me, and
Yeah.
she's like, "This is the worst vacation ever." It's like 30 days of it, 30 days, when you look at it, like doesn't really seem, and I wasn't very like portable. Like I couldn't really go anywhere without a lot of thought.
Mhm.
Like we needed to bring like a meal, like we needed to have a prepped meal. Like
I love that you say you're not portable.
yeah, I'm
That's
not portable, not pliable, not flexible on anything. I can't audible to anything else. The restaurants that you go to, thankfully we're in Los Angeles. So like Los Angeles is a city where you can kind of get whatever you want. It's one of the biggest cities in the world. And so you can tell them, if they're going to cook some fish for you, you can tell them, no oil. And they really pay attention because there's a lot of health conscious people there.
Mhm.
I think here in Sacramento, they're like, "Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, there's going to be no oil on it, dude." And then you get a whole plate full of oil.
Yes.
But luckily in LA, it's a little bit more that way. But even just like going to a movie, or we want to go to the Santa Monica Pier, I want to walk around with the kids, and like I could kind of do that stuff, and I did my best, but
Mhm.
I'm just not there. Like
Yeah.
I'm just mentally and again, I wasn't super calorically deprived, so it's not like I'm an asshole 24/7. But I'm just thinking about other stuff. I got this goal. People seen me on YouTube forever. They seen me powerlift. No one's ever seen me bodybuild before. So
Mhm.
my goal with the bodybuilding show was for people to go, "Oh, okay, he's doing bodybuilding. Kind of seems like a little bit of like a stunt. Seems like a YouTube thing." And then as they saw the weeks go by, I wanted them to kind of eat their words and be like, oh, like he's actually going to do a bodybuilding show. Like that's
Yeah.
fucking cool. And that was the goal. And hopefully that was the result of it. But I just wanted to kind of take it as far as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, man, yeah, you get your mind in some compromising positions, man.
Yeah.
It gets to be weird.
Yeah. No, you like the thing is that like even Alberto Nunez mentioned, like you brought it in that show. Like you had glutes, you had hamstring tight.
Alberto Nunez. No one gets leaner than that guy.
No, nobody does get as lean as he does. He's an absolute freak.
Alberto Nunez gave me an amazing compliment. He said, nobody goes over the middle harder than Mark Smelly Bell. He's like Jerry Rice or something he said like that. And I was like, damn. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, you're comparing me to Jerry Rice.
He's
like,
a big football fan.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't deserve to be compared to Jerry Rice, but I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
Yeah. But
would you guys say that the like bodybuilding culture, that's the first thing that everyone gets exposed to though?
you know, when I started lifting, I think yeah, it wasn't necessarily bodybuilding culture. It's just I had a gym, but like the first like I think real like fitness culture I was influenced by was bodybuilding culture. Like yeah, it for me it was.
Yeah, pumping iron, right? That's like what everyone said. Well, at least in my age, like they say, is like that's the thing that like that's when I decided I was gonna start hitting the gym and getting jacked.
Well, we know some athletes, in powerlifting that have some thickness to them. That they have a look. It's very clear that they train, but it's not an aesthetic look that automatically jumps out at you as like I want to be built like that guy.
Yeah.
It's this is like about like beauty and aesthetics and things that very clearly look kind of nice to people. Like even a little kid could, like, if somebody's real muscular, even like a little kid is kind of like, oh, that's different. Like they recognize something's up. And even our superheroes, like why aren't our superheroes all fat? Or even when they make these action figures, they're all jacked, right? And it's because that is, I don't know, where or why, but it's somewhere in the human DNA that is more appealing.
Yeah.
That's like a look that people are going for. And so I think like striving towards it and knowing what it takes to get there can actually be a very healthy thing too.
It can. Like if
It can
you
be
can
a great thing.
Yeah, if you can go through that fire and come out on the other side. I have taken a lot from those bodybuilding shows and those preps. It's made a big positive difference and given me a lot of good experience, But looking at it now, thinking about it, I don't have a fire to step back on stage,
Right.
I just don't feel like I need to do that. And I wonder, let me ask you this. You know how people do you think you can be a bodybuilder without stepping on stage? Personally, I do think so. I'll explain that later, but do you think so?
I had the same question.
Yeah, I think it's it can be difficult, but here's what I'd say about it. I would say that it'd be very hard if you haven't been around other bodybuilders and you really don't have much bodybuilding experience. That if you never stepped on a stage or never put yourself through that, and maybe the only way to put yourself through that much tension is to actually maybe do a bodybuilding show, or maybe to at least train or be around somebody that did some of that. Because I don't think you'd really understand, like it's, this is not something that you can't do it 70% for 10 years, now 70% for 10 years, you will make progress, but you need to at some point buckle down and turn that percentage into, you got to be like 90, 95, and it's hard for anybody to be like 100, right? But you really have to really concentrate and really buckle down. So without like a photo shoot, without a bodybuilding show, without something, a transformation challenge, without something, someone really throwing down the gauntlet and saying, hey man, like this is what you got to do. I think it'd be hard. But having said that, if you have done a bodybuilding show, yes, I think that you can kind of forever use that information and use that to kind of lean back on. And so for me, people ask me all the time if I'm going to compete again. And at first I was kind of like, oh, I don't think I'll compete ever again. And now I'm more like, well, maybe I'll just, maybe at like 45, like if things start to go a little sideways with me, maybe I'll re-up it, maybe 45 and maybe 50. Maybe I'll try to do it a couple times to reinstall that kind of software into my body again and say, look, this is how hard you went. Like, remember how this shit felt? Like, this is how hard you were going, dude. And like, this is going to get you back in shape again. So one thing I loved about the bodybuilding show is that I've been in better shape ever since I did it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. What I think is cool about you, and a lot of people don't know this, you're a lot leaner and look a lot better than even these videos that we were playing here.
Oh yeah, I'm leaner.
You're quite a bit leaner, and I don't think this is where people need to get. And this is what you can get from not necessarily just bodybuilding, but this is what you can get from going really hard. If you go really hard, you can kind of learn what it would feel like to let off of the gas a little bit, not go so hard, find something that will allow you to cruise at a good, comfortable speed for a long period of time where you're able to continue to make progress. And then you're like, you know what? This isn't even really that hard. That's where people need to get to. That's like what I'm so excited about when we talk about on this show. And what I'm hoping I can get people to is let's start to take some of this crap out of your diet and let's start to put some good effort into our training. And then, yes, that part will be hard because it's life altering. Let's work on getting a little bit better sleep. Let's work on these things. But once we install some of this stuff and once you start to implement some of this stuff, it will feel better than doing anything different. Anytime you try to do something different, you want to eat some nachos or burrito or something, that won't feel good to you and it won't appeal to you because it keeps pulling you away from the goal. And without it being all that difficult and without abstaining from stuff too much and without having depriving yourself of stuff too much, you'll say what I just said, and you'll say, man, like I'm still making progress, but this ain't that bad. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 7 in terms of effort or 6.
Yeah.
Over time, the more discipline you have and the stronger that you get, the ease. Like how hard is your diet on a scale of 1 to 10 now?
It's not difficult at all. Like literally, it's not difficult for me to maintain at all.
Is there one point in a day or one point in the week where you're like, maybe you get a little soft in terms of your mindset of like, I'm eating this way?
When you say, tell me what
soft
you mean
in terms of like just kind of like letting it go and saying like I'm just going to kind of eat whatever I want for today or tonight or whatever.
Well, like like if
cravings,
if not really cravings, but it's more so like if I do want to go out to a restaurant with my girlfriend or something. Like if we want to go out and eat somewhere, okay. It's not because I was craving it though. It's just because hey, let's go out and eat somewhere. That's it. Let's get some Korean barbecue or something. It's nice. It's different. But it's not because I'm really craving that. I don't get cravings like that nearly as much as I used to. But it's just like a want for something rather than a craving for something, you know?
This is in my best interest to kick it with my girlfriend and just to go to this place and enjoy that and enjoy this time together.
Yeah, enjoy some different food with her that like isn't on the diet. But what I was gonna say was like when what you said about that, I never really even thought about this. The lengths to which I went and the lengths to which you went with bodybuilding and the diet and like the deprivation. Everything that we're doing right now in terms of fasting and all this stuff pales in comparison in terms of difficulty and in terms of the way it feels versus that. So like, even though I'm not always comparing it to that, maybe it's because I've done that maybe this type of lifestyle is so easy. I'm not saying that you need to do that.
Yeah, but the way that you eat would be very difficult for someone else to implement if they've never really tried a diet before.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, you're going to fast 20 hours a day, and you're going to do that 6 days a week.
I've actually shortened my fasting window just a bit on most days now. It's like 16 because
see.
Yeah, no, because,
Andrew, how many fucking times this happened to us on this show?
It just breaks my heart over and over.
I know. All of a sudden, the truth gets released. Remember, we thought he was natural, and then he mentioned what? Vitamin C,
creatine
monohydrate,
fish oil. I mean, and he just throws it at us like that, and he just continues onward with this like sentence.
No, it makes it
so
easier.
Disappointing.
Dude, you and Jose Canseco.
Who's Jose Canseco? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I should know this because that name's familiar, but
He
is he
hit a
an
lot of
athlete?
home runs. He hit a lot of home runs.
Oh, he's one of those like
Yeah.
Mark McGuire kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know, the blue ball.
Mark
baseball.
McGuire is
Baseball. I'm joking, Smokey.
Mark McGuire is a good comparison because they were teammates.
Yeah.
He's the first 40-40 man. 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases. Juiced out of his mind. He's the one to let the cat out of the bag on everybody.
When I was a kid, my first baseball bat was like a McGuire baseball bat when I first started playing baseball because Mark McGuire was the guy to me. So
Now all this
he's
is
my
starting.
influence.
You have
Anyway.
a D-ball baseball bat.
Dude, everyone would like, you know how we talked about Mike Tyson, like everybody was like so amped up and anticipated, like you just, when Jose Canseco went up, everybody held their breath because you're like, oh my God, he's gonna hit the ball from Oakland all the way to Sacramento. Like that's what you expected.
Dude, he was jacked, and he would wiggle the bat around, and like his forearms would go all crazy, and like just him in his stance is like
Yeah.
you can see his hamstrings like through his pants and shit. He's all jacked
He was
like a monster.
freak.
So wait, okay. Since I recognize his name, but I
Pull
don't
him up,
know
pull
him
him up.
as
Oh, I
well
cannot
as
wait.
Mark McGuire. Why wasn't he was he as famous as Mark McGuire or not really?
He was actually a little bit before Mark McGuire. Mark
Oh,
McGuire got
okay.
really famous because he got in that home run battle with Sammy Sosa.
Okay.
And they kept going back and forth, and that was a huge thing. And then that was like that was like that steroid era, you know. And then Bonds came along and smashed everybody's records.
But let me explain this 20-hour thing though. Okay? So I brought it to 8 because I want to like eat my last meal a little bit, like a few hours before I go
that's
to
right.
bed.
You're saying you wanted to
I don't
have
want
some space between your last meal and
sleep. Yeah. So
How's
that's
that
the main
feeling?
reason. It feels great. Like I feel so much better when I'm going to sleep and when I'm waking up. I think it's actually made a considerable difference.
Do you track do you have any wearables that can track your like heart rate and stuff like that?
I do. I have the Apple Watch does, but I've stopped wearing it when I sleep. Like I haven't worn it when I sleep for a few months.
It's what's supposed to happen is your resting heart rate, which I could be fucking all this up. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm mentioning it, but I think your resting heart rate will be lower, which I think helps you get better rest and helps you get into deeper sleep.
Yeah.
The further away that you eat from your sleep. Now that there's so much conflicting evidence. I mean, we've heard so many different people say so many different things. Heard a couple people say carbohydrates can help get you to bed.
Yeah.
And we've heard other people say carbohydrates can kind of wake you up in the middle of the night, and sometimes make you hungry. So I guess it really just depends on the person. But for me, and this might be a problem for a lot of people listening to the show, the only time that I want to eat like a shit ton of calories and the only time I want to just kind of, binge or eat unnecessarily, like I'll have eaten dinner and, it's 5 o'clock or it's 6 o'clock and I got a fridge full of food, and all I'm doing is hang with my wife. We're going to maybe watch a TV show. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to do nothing and consume calories for really no reason. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to maybe I'll go for like a walk or something, but I'm not really doing much. So it doesn't really make sense to sit there and just eat all the time. But a lot of times that's what I do because you just want something to do. You want something to eat. And usually it's something healthy, but just because it's something healthy doesn't mean that it's still not a pointless act. I don't think you should be really eating in front of a screen. I just don't think it's a great idea. I don't think it's a good practice. And I'll still do it, right? So if you have trouble like that, one of the greatest things that you can do is just have a time that you set, that you agree, I'm not eating past. It's hard.
Yeah.
It might be the hardest thing that you ever implement, but it's worth it. It can
Yeah.
make a big difference. You could chop out a lot of unnecessary extra energy that you're eating just to go to bed.
That's honestly a great thing to do, and that's one of I think a really good habit to try and break. Eating out of boredom. I used to eat out of boredom too. Like it used to be something like
I'm so bored.
Yeah, like you're not doing anything. Maybe you're watching something or you're
Yeah.
just chilling. You're like, that actually sounds kind of good right now. Let me go grab that. You grab something, you grab something else. You just start eating, and sooner or later it just adds up.
You have to kind of ask yourself, like, does it actually amplify the experience? And it's easy to say now that it doesn't amplify the experience, right? But it's hard in that moment to like kind of talk yourself out of it. But when you go and see a movie, you go to the movie theater, and all you drink is water. When you leave the movie theater is when you're going to be the most excited about the decision that you made.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, you know what? I didn't really. You're going to feel the entire time like I don't like popcorn, so it works out good for me. But A lot of people love popcorn, and they love going to the movies and enjoying the popcorn. But for most people, when you start making decisions like that to not go against what you're trying to do, you will very, very rarely regret it. Now, I do think if it's like, if you have a once-in-a-lifetime thing going on, like you get to enjoy a couple drinks or enjoy a meal or something with somebody that maybe you otherwise wouldn't normally get a chance to hang out with, or you're in a city or a town and they got this kind of like special thing, that's when I think it's like you don't want to make that a habit, have an excuse every single week. It's the 4th of July. It's, I'm hanging out with Rob Bailey. It's this thing, It's, sorry, the muscle. Just throwing you under the bus there, buddy. But you're fat, and we need to still work on it, right, buddy? We're getting you down there. He's under 300 pounds, so we're making progress. We've got him down about 17 pounds now.
Whew.
But you don't want to use those excuses all the time. But if they're kind of legitimate, where it's like you're at this cool restaurant, they got this cool thing that you never tried before, that might be a time to try it. And maybe a way to be less fat about it is to maybe share it with somebody.
And yeah, not like, again, having control over that and not feeling guilty like of it. Like Nick, what was Nick Bear's girlfriend's name again?
Ariana.
Right. Nick Wright.
Nick Wright. Yeah. Not Nick. Oh yeah, Nick Wright, not Nick Bear. Okay, let's get that right.
They have the same girlfriend.
Yeah. So yeah, no, like Ariana was saying, I think
pretty good that I didn't even catch that either.
I think that's a pretty big deal to like, get control over it to a point where like you can go out, you can have these things without actually feeling guilty about it, because feeling guilty about eating something, that's not a good habit or feeling to have either. You know what I mean?
So how, like, let's say you're currently fat, right? Let's say that you are 270. You have an extra 30 pounds of fat on you, right?
Yeah.
And, I give you a plan and you're following it, but like you want to give into something. How would you approach that? How would you maybe like do something outside the diet? Maybe you feel like binging. Maybe you feel like you have this urge. You have something that you just want to eat.
Yeah.
Would you just say, okay, look, I'm going to make a deal with myself. I'm just going to go enjoy this. But then for the next, 4 or 5 days, I need to get back on and be consistent again.
This is where the tools in the toolbox comes in, because like, for example, like if it's at that point for me, I would fast for most of the day. And then it's like, let's say I wanted to get Korean barbecue or something, I'd go and enjoy that meal, because Korean barbecue, it's going to be difficult for me to get in 5,000 calories in that single meal, right? Especially if I've fasted all day. So I could still enjoy that. I could still probably not have, ate an insane amount where it's really going to affect me negatively. Go next day, go back, get on what I want to do. But that's why it's good to have that type of tool, because even nowadays I'll do that. Like I'll fast for most of my day, and then I'll go have a big meal. But that big meal isn't any just massive surplus, and it's one meal. It's different than, okay, you're going through your day, you're on your plan, then you choose to like binge or whatever. And then that just messes everything up, because now you're eating all of this massive amount of food in a 12, 14 hour period.
Yeah.
So that's just something you can utilize, because like there are going to be times where you need to have a fun meal that's not on your diet plan, or that's not on your whatever you're setting up. And that'll just help you feel better. But if you can still do that and still make progress.
Let's maybe even just not even look at it. And again, you don't want to like use this as like a crutch or use this as a thing that allows you to cheat all the time. But let's just view it as a surplus of energy. And then let's figure out what to do with that energy. So what you're saying is like, for you, your remedy is to maybe just not eat as much for the entire day, right? Let's say that for the latter half of the day, you just went haywire and you ate a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is where people can really get themselves in a compromising spot, because, it's Saturday and they kind of binged and now they're kind of upset with themselves. They really went off the deep end. They ate some pizza, they had some cookie dough, and they finished the night off with a thing of Ben and Jerry's, And they kind of just really messed up. Maybe had some drinks or something like that. Now it's Sunday morning. For me, when I do something like that, I kind of struggle the next day. So what I would suggest in this kind of scenario is probably the best thing to do would be to see if you could fast on Sunday, but it might be hard. You might be struggling. You might be thinking about like pancakes because you just had all that sugar.
Yeah.
sugar gets sugar. Like the more sugar that you have, it's a cycle. And it doesn't matter how strong you are, doesn't matter your mindset, doesn't matter, you could have the best intentions.
Yeah.
That is a circle that's going to happen in your body, and your body's going to be like, hey, like we're getting a dip. We're dipping back down. Our blood glucose levels are like, low or normal-ish again, and you should like refill on that shit again. Yeah. And so you'll get that urge again. And so there's a bunch of things you can do to combat it, but you shouldn't necessarily go to the gym and be like, I'm going to hammer the fuck out of myself to get rid of all this energy, this extra calories that I have. Then the reason for that is that overtraining can cause overeating.
Yeah.
Undersleeping can cause overeating. A night of drinking can throw off your sleep, right? So it's like, let's kind of start to think about some of this stuff. So you might want to think about that cheat day or that cheat meal or that cheat weekend that started to kind of unfold, because you're like, I'll start on Monday. You might want to start to try to put some logical thought around how are you going to mitigate that the best that you possibly can. And maybe a good answer would be I'm going to kind of prep going into it, because I know it's my girlfriend, my wife's birthday. It's so-and-so's birthday party, and I know that I'm going to eat like an asshole that day. And you can kind of plan accordingly, kind of going into it, and then maybe you can plan accordingly coming back out of it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot of planning, and it sounds like being like super neurotic. But I think that if you're heavy and you struggled with your diet before, I think you have to think about it that much. You don't have to be depressed about it. You don't have to be sad about it. You don't have to be mad about it, because you're one meal away from being back on your plan. And so what I would suggest, let's say you had that weekend and you went a little nutty. Monday morning comes, don't bother with trying to fast. Don't bother with, trying fasted cardio. Don't bother with any of that stuff. Have a full day of eating, but eat nutritious foods that are actually on the plan, and eat as much as you'd like.
Yeah.
Tuesday, you can get your shit back together. You can get stuff back under control. But if you try to always fast your way in and fast your way out of things, you could end up going haywire 2 or 3 days later again. So really track your behavior. So if you start trying to do intermittent fasting and you fast for 3 days and you do an 18-hour fast on each day, that's really cool. Okay, you fasted Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Now what we need to look at is, what is your behavior going to look like on Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Because I am going to guess, and I'm going to assume, if you had trouble with your diet before like I have, that you're going to fuck up. And you're automatically going to go back to eating whatever amount of calories were left on the table. Guaranteed. And that's why you weigh the same as you did this time last year. Yeah. And that's why you get on the scale and you see the same fucking weight every time, because your body is going to say, dude, you weigh 240 pounds. Don't forget. Hey, you weigh 240. Hey, you didn't eat today. Hey, you didn't eat. It's over and over and over and over again. And then you have to figure out, even if you fasted, how do I consume less overall energy than I normally do? And it's really, really hard for people because it has a fucking stranglehold on you. So you have to figure out a way eventually to eat less food.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's I like what you mentioned there, because let's say it's not just a day or it's not just a meal, but it ends up being a whole weekend. A tactic that some people use, it's called the borrowing principle. But the thing about the borrowing principle is that it's a very easy thing to fall into and just be like, oh, I can do that. And this is what it is. You probably already know what I'm going to mention. Let's say you do eat in a massive surplus for 3 days. Well, okay, you ate in a massive surplus for 3 days. The next few days, maybe 4 days, you eat much less than you typically do. And what'll happen is, if you're someone who tracks it, you could track it so that your weekly intake still averages out to be the same. Let's give an example. Let's try to use easy math here. 200 grams of carbs for 7 days. If you're someone who eats 200 grams of carbs every single week, that's 1,400 grams of carbohydrates. Or you could eat 100 grams of carbs for 5 days and then eat the remaining 900 grams of carbs, so 450 grams of carbohydrates for the 2 days. That's still 1,400, right? So you still ate the same amount of food. And that could be and that's what I'm talking about here. So some people do utilize that. But the thing is, some people like they use that in a bad way where they're like, okay, I can fall off and I can eat some shit for the next 2 days because all I have to do is just eat a smaller amount of food. And that can be done in a smart way, but especially if you're new to dieting, you don't want to do that too often because it applies to too big of a crutch. And I do like what you mentioned that you like, okay, if you do mess up for the weekend or whatever, just be normal. Try and get back to a normal for the next few days because I think that that's a much healthier way to do it where it doesn't cause like disorder type eating where, oh God, okay, I'm going to starve myself for these next few days. But then once you're feeling super hungry, so you go right back and you eat a lot again, then you feel guilty and you starve yourself for the next few days.
Do a little bit of the opposite of what you would think, and think about the foods that you enjoy that are healthy. Like let's say you really love oranges.
Yeah.
Let's say you enjoy certain vegetables. Let's say you enjoy certain meats, or you enjoy like cheese or whatever the thing is that has that provides some value to the nutrients that you need in a given day. Go ahead and like eat up on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe eat a little bit more. Maybe like I like heavy cream, so it's like heavy cream is giving me a surplus of energy. Heavy cream tastes good. I might put it in like a protein shake, and it's like that is sending a signal to my brain that we're like not treating ourselves like shit. I'm not depriving myself of a bunch of stuff because there's so much damn flavor to it, So I'm still delivering something kind of fun for myself. Or even like the snack that I have at night, which is yogurt and Slingshot protein. I'm still giving myself like a quote unquote treat. It still feels good. And when I want to tighten shit back up, I'll start to cut those things back out again.
The borrowing method sounds like you're taking out a personal loan.
It pretty much is kind of like that. But the thing is that can be done in a super healthy way. You know what I mean? It's not like I do that every now and then too, but it's not something that like I'm like, I have a craving, so I have to do this. It's like, okay, I want to have this meal with this person or whatever. So I'm going to, fast and eat this much, and then I'll just, eat a little bit less the next day. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't cause any mental stress. But it's when it starts to cause stress, that's an issue.
Yeah, I just feel like it would take a lot of discipline because, like the comparison to a personal loan, it's like you promise you're going to pay it, pay more than you're supposed to. You promise you pay it on time, and then you look back and it's like, oh shit, I went and took out more. Like, my bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so
it might just be
tactics. It's tools, man.
Calories on credit.
Calories on credit.
Yeah, it might just be a little easier, just to, figure out a way. Like I like what he said. Is it's just 100 carbs versus 200 carbs is not a crazy difference, So it's like maybe you pulled out some rice out of a meal each day, and then now you have that built up for the weekend. You could also, and this is kind of falls into the definition of bulimia in some way, is you can go eye for an eye a little bit with some of it. Sometimes I think it can be okay. Let's say the weekend, you like to train outside, you like to do conditioning, you like to do stuff that maybe costs you more than your average stuff. And so maybe for that reason, maybe Saturday and Sunday night, you allow yourself to kind of eat something that you really want, something that you've been craving, But again, it's like it depends on how you want to look. How lean do you want to get? How far do you want to take it? Because the more that you're going to mess up on Saturday, Sunday, the more that you'd have to put in to the week. And then that might cause you again to go haywire. It might cause you again to like kind of go really off plan. But I also think that, I know we call it a cheat and we have fun with it and we laugh about it and stuff, but like even thinking about it as cheating is probably pretty negative.
Yeah.
It's like it's probably, I hear people now, they'll say, for my cheat I had a Quest pizza, or for my cheat I had and it's usually like a lot of times it's pretty minor. You're like, wow, that was your John Romano yesterday. He said my cheat is sushi. He's like, I go, on Friday night, I go with my wife to sushi, and he's like, I probably eat like a cup and a half or 2 cups of rice in that one meal, and like that's my cheat. And he said he was having like rolls and stuff too, so there's a lot of fat calories kind of in there, so it's a giant surplus of calories. But I liked what he said there. It was like his cheat is like pretty damn tame, It's pretty moderate, but there's really probably no reason to look at it as a cheat. you can maybe just have a little bit different dialogue for it and just say, I'm just going to eat more on that day.
That's the thing. Like, we've beat this idea down, but I really think we need to figure out something else to call that, because whenever I have these meals out, I don't think it's not cheating at all. Like, it's nothing close to cheating. It's not negative. It's really, really good for me, and it's not a bad thing at all. But I feel like, you know, especially when someone's new to this whole like weight loss thing or fat loss, right? And they're on their journey, if they continue to look at it as a cheat and they really feel like they're cheating, that's bad. That's a really bad thing for them to feel.
I mean, think about other things that you might like kind of starve yourself away from or fast yourself away from. Let's say you just fasted away from interacting with people for a few days. Let's say you just wanted to, like, I don't know, like just unplug, right? And then, like, would you consider it a cheat to go and like get in conversation with somebody? Like, probably not really,
Nope.
right? It's because your mind is sometimes recognizing, like, okay, isolation can be a great thing, but for how long? Like, people can't be isolated for very long. You can't really do that for very long. Most people can't.
Yeah.
It's the biggest form of punishment. The greatest form of punishment is to put people in a cell by themselves with no one else and with no sun and no interaction, anything else. Like, that's the worst thing that we could do to somebody, right?
Mhm.
That's somebody that murdered somebody, raped somebody, or whatever. Some crazy shit happened, right? And that's what they do. They put them in solitary confinement, and they're completely by themselves. And we can recognize that isolation is probably kind of positive for a little bit, but then we also need to be like social. So depriving yourself of any food is probably great. Depriving yourself of all food might not be a bad idea, but to do it all the time, like eating, is super important.
Yeah.
Being excited about eating is actually very important. What Tom Bilyeu said when we had him on our podcast is, he said he's trying to figure out like why the French fries work. You know, why do they work? Like they work. You eat them, or whatever your food is, pizza, ice cream, whatever it is, it actually works. It actually fills in. Like, you have this empty thing inside that you need filled up, and you're like, I'm gonna eat a donut. And you know how? I mean, I don't know, how pumped would we be if we said, "Fuck it, let's go get a box of donuts"? Like, we
Yeah.
would be happy, we'd be laughing, we'd eat the donuts, and we'd probably be hysterical. We'd be laughing our asses off,
Yeah.
right? We'd be all excited about it. It actually does a lot of those things for us. So you're gonna have to mix in. You got to mix in all these ingredients if you want to be successful. You're gonna have to mix in the quote unquote bad, the quote unquote cheats, the sugar, the different things that kind of get you a high that way. And you're going to have to mix in the miserableness of not eating, and sometimes being like, I wish I could just eat everything that's at this Mexican restaurant, but I
Yeah.
can't. You know, you're going to have to do all of it.
Man, no, what you just mentioned there is a really awesome comparison. Because, like, even being too social is sometimes not the greatest thing. Like, then you're like going out all the time, and yeah, it could be really, really bad. So I really like that comparison. If we could just look at food in the exact same way, right? That's perfect. Yeah, I've never thought about that before, but we just need to look at food in that way.
Yeah, not eating is actually very healthy. Eating even something healthy causes inflammation. But does that mean we don't eat like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, we need the nutrition. We need the nutrients. So you really have to think about, like, and I know we promote fasting a lot, but I also want to, promote the dangers of it. It can be kind of it can be tough. Just pay attention to your behavior several days later, because that's actually the most important thing. What you did that day is not that important, because one day is not going to really make a big difference. So if you fasted for 24 hours, that's cool. But if 2 or 3 days later you ate everything under the sun, unfortunately, you kind of completely screwed up that whole point of that fast for that day.
Yeah.
And so those are all things to be conscious of and aware of. Back to the kind of the specifics of like the bodybuilding thing. There's a bunch of things the bodybuilding thing did for me that were super positive, and one was just to show me that there's a next level, and it's kind of nice when you work out with somebody, and let's say I'm working out with Nsima, and I'm like, damn, man, okay, he's bringing it, like, shit, okay, this is the way he trains. Or we train with Mike O'Hearn, we're all hyped up, right, and we had a great workout. and you get amped up from that, and you realize, okay, someone else is showing you kind of their level, right? And sometimes that happens just because you get in like friendly competition and stuff. But there's nothing cooler than showing yourself that you have another level. You get into training. It took me a little bit to get the feel of it because I didn't even really know how to get a good pump in all the different muscles. Like I kind of understood how to get like an arm pump, kind of understood how to get a chest pump, but then like the lats and like a hamstring, like some parts I never really felt for. I didn't really mess around with flexing my hamstrings or specifically flexing I never did bodybuilding, never flexed my calf or some of these things. So I had to kind of learn that. But once I learned it, and once I, was warmed up for a workout, it was like I was going a lot harder, admittedly, than I am right now. But it's kind of nice to know that you do have that next level, and it's a really, really cool feeling. And then in terms of the nutrition and in terms of just kind of the entire thing that it takes to do bodybuilding, I showed myself another level. And that's something that you can be super proud of. And I also think it's good to go through different time periods of your life where you're pushing in this one thing, you're pushing on this one thing, you're pushing on it so hard, but it's also probably not realistic to do that all the time. So it's good to know you have another level, you have another place you can go to, but I don't know if it makes sense to like kind of always live in that spot.
Yeah, no, like it's it's funny when I was getting lean. It's cool when you see different parts of your body that you've never seen that deeply. Like you see lines in your legs that you've never seen before in your shoulders.
It's encouraging.
Or whatever. Yeah, it is. It is. And the fact that like you can, just knowing that you can take your physique there, I think is something that's really empowering or really awesome about bodybuilding. One thing like you said though is that you can't stick there all the time. There are those people that compete like multiple shows every single year, and they never really have a time where they can bulk or gain new muscle. So like you wanna be able to have times where you're in a surplus, where you have some body fat on and you're gaining, and then again when you want to compete again, you have times where you're getting ready for show. It just has to be a good balance there.
And I think like what we're saying with the food, like, it's great to be locked in. It's great to feel really good about your diet, and it's great to have this regimen and routine that you've stuck to for a long time. And it's also okay to like let it go here and there. It's okay to just say, you know what, I'm not going to really. Maybe you're a person that likes to weigh stuff and track stuff, and maybe you just take a couple days off of that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just don't do that. You're not gonna. If you already have some of the things in place to have discipline with what you're eating, you don't need to worry. You're not going to probably gain like 10 pounds of body fat or anything. You're probably not going to gain really anything. So, there's a time and place for all of it. There's time and place to train really heavy. There's a time and place to train with, really short rest intervals. There's time and place to kind of mix in just a wide variety of things and feel good about all of it.
Yeah. Damn, dude, you're looking jacked in that video. It's crazy.
I think this is probably, and that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. Like, what happens after a bodybuilding show to a lot of people? A lot of times they look better. Sometimes there's that rebound that we've talked about where somebody, they gain 30 pounds or 40 pounds. And from a mental standpoint, it's, really hard for them to overcome and stuff. But sometimes people just get a healthy amount of calories in their body. And they're like, shit, man, like the show should be today. You look awesome right here, And so, yeah, it's not a lot of shit right there. What you got, Andrew?
No, I was just going to ask about like being okay with, so you're getting lean and stuff. And I mean, this is kind of a bad example because what you just said, but like letting go of the strength, right? Like people kind of have a hard time. They want to get bigger, but then, oh shoot, like I can't bench the same amount of weight, or I can't, do this and that. And then they kind of want to, then they become unsure of what they want to do. So it's like, how hard is it to like really fully commit and let go of, again, like I said earlier, like this other person?
There's different strengths, there's a lot of different forms of strength. And Nsima, this, doing a bodybuilding show, yeah, you'll lose weight, you'll start to lose some strength, but then you start to gain other things. Like you're going to gain the ability to move your body around better. So for you, I mean, you're already pretty good at pull-ups. I've seen you do like weighted pull-ups and stuff. But when you're in bodybuilding mode, how much easier are those pull-ups?
Oh, so much easier. So much easier.
I mean,
'cause
you're
it's
banging
less
out
weight.
12 reps and you're squeezing them and you're doing it right.
Yeah, it's less weight to have to move around. So like not everything gets weaker, but yeah, definitely like my bench gets weaker, my squat, all my power lifts got a little bit weaker in terms of the absolute amount of weight I could push.
Right.
But again, it was understanding going in with that expectation for that to happen to an extent. You know, if you don't know that you're going to get quite a bit weaker and not feel as strong under heavy loads, okay, it might hit you a little bit more. But like you're losing body fat around certain areas, like in your hips. You know, when you're squatting down into the hole, that hip fat is nice. You don't have that hip fat when you're lean, right? So you feel kind of fragile. So yeah, I would say that was one aspect of it that like it did hit me a little bit, because there would be movements that I would want to push a little bit heavier and I just physically couldn't. But I knew that going in. And even right now, like with jujitsu and lifting, like I went into jujitsu understanding that, okay, I might drop a few pounds. I'm not going to be as strong as I was when I was like focusing on powerlifting when I was 260, but I can still be pretty strong with like quite a few things while still being able to do this thing. So I went in understanding what I was going to get myself into.
Yeah, I was talking to some of the fighters yesterday at CSA, and one of the guys was saying he can deadlift around 405. It's probably, I mean, the guy's probably a $170 or something, $160. I mean, he's not a heavy guy, but he's one of the better fighters they have up there. And he was saying how, you know, a lot of times people will ask him, like, as he's gotten leaner, you know, is he losing some strength? Or even going into a fight, you know, will he lose some strength because he has to do like a weight cut? And he's like, I'll lose like a tiny bit of strength in terms of maybe being able to like pick up a certain weight or something like that. But he's like, I'm so much more fit. I can move better. I can move faster. And he was kind of mimicking like throwing punches. He's like, I have a lot more snap. And he's like, I had this snap and this pop right here on these movements and in these drills because I pull back on some of the lifting. And so some strength coaches would be like, no, I mean, you can't pull, you know. This is a guy who's had, you know, 50 fights or so. I mean, he knows what's going on. He knows how to play the game. So he knows what's going to work well for him. But what I thought was interesting is like, he's 100% right. Look, he's taking out energy because he's eating less food. What can he afford to give up? He can't stop his drills. He can't stop the MMA stuff. He can't stop striking. He can't stop wrestling. He can't stop practicing jiu-jitsu. It makes absolutely no sense to get rid of any of that stuff. He can't stop jumping rope. He has to keep moving. He has to have his general physical preparedness needs to be high. His specific preparedness needs to be high. And the one place that he can pull something out of would be, you know, hitting heavy deadlifts, because the heavy deadlifts, and some people try to disagree on this, the heavy deadlifts are going to make you slow, and not make you slow in terms of how fast you move, because being stronger can actually help you move through space faster.
Yeah.
Like Usain Bolt demonstrates an immense amount of strength. I don't think people understand that when he's doing his 100-meter dash, right? He's flying, and he moves stronger and more powerful than anybody we've ever seen before, right? But for a fighter or somebody, even like in jiu-jitsu or somebody or CrossFit, if the movement costs them too much for the next few days, that's what he's talking about. So like let's say he did a 405 deadlift, and then he had jiu-jitsu, he had wrestling, he had striking to go over. 2 and 3 days later, after his max effort deadlift, he's going to move around the way that we move around. He's going to move around the way a power lifter moves around. He's going to be taxed. He's going to be slowing down, right? So that's where I think, you know, you really have to just pay attention, like, you know, what's coming next? What are you doing? And if you love heavy lifting, you don't have to stop heavy lifting.
Yeah.
You can continue to lift heavy. And you can continue to have strain and struggle. You can continue to do some of those. Like I did some 1-rep maxes. I pulled close to 600 pounds before the meet came. I benched 405. Before the competition came, the bodybuilding show. And it wasn't like those were like impossible for me, but it still gave me that strain and struggle, the same as I felt when I've deadlifted 700, the same as I felt when I benched over 500. So you could still get those things. It's going to be a little less weight, but it's still going to be fun. It's still going to have that challenge to it. But be cautious that you're not trying to put so much into that, because that's not the focus. Focus at that point is to dump body fat.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. Especially even like right now, like the focus in terms of my lifting is just to help me be better on the mats. And I know what I can give. I know what I can't do. So it's just that shift, figuring out what's more important at the time.
Have you overdone your lifting a couple times where you went to practice and you're like, my hip, my knee, my back, whatever?
I kind of look at that as a positive, honestly. Like,
Because it's training.
Yeah, and also like when I do that here, right, or when I lift anywhere before I go to jiu-jitsu, it is good because it forces me to utilize better technique on the mat. I'm pre-fatigued, so I'm not able to push my opponent off me with all my power. I may have to move a little bit slower, but it does force me to use better technique in all my rolls, use my energy smartly, and it helps improve that martial art. And like I think that's actually something that's oddly beneficial about this. I don't know any other thing that, or maybe other martial arts, I don't know any other thing that, pre-fatiguing yourself before doing it can actually be very beneficial for it. But I think like for all jiu-jitsu
I think there's a lot
athletes,
that's not known about that. I do think that is like, if there is a magic pill, I think that there's a lot of magic in that. You have to be a little cautious with it because you don't want to go too far and hurt yourself on like a heavy deadlift, right?
Yeah.
But doing some leg presses and doing some lunges before you deadlift can, and I'll use the word help, it can help and assist you to use less weight. Now, somebody might think, oh, it's hurting. You can't lift as much weight. But actually, it may force you to have better form and technique, and it might take your legs away a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And now you might have to try to use your lower back more, but we're still trying to adhere to having good form. So maybe the only way that you can lift that day, because you did so much work before that, maybe all you can lift that day is 405 with keeping your back flat and with having your, your hips down and things like that. So it's not like you're going to execute anything regardless of technique. You still have all the same rules. It's just that you probably need to use a little bit less weight until you get used to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday was a lot of fun. I got a chance to watch. I call him the Dream Killer, Gaston. I forget his last name, but watching him.
Is he a fighter?
Yeah, he's a fighter. Yeah,
Okay.
He does MMA up at CSA in. That's where the Slingshot Record Breaker is going to be this year. But he was practicing. He's practicing some drills with his teammates. They're all fighting September 6th for Strike Force, and he's rolling. They're working on specific moves, mainly chokes, and it was fun to watch because they're all like allowing each other to do some stuff. They're all allowing each other to do some parts of they're drilling.
Yeah.
So they're allowing each other to get certain holds and stuff, but they're also working very hard. Yeah, this guy's a fucking animal. We're watching some videos of him.
Is this the
right
Gaston guy?
here. Yeah, he's absolute savage. We'll have him on the podcast. He was excited to be on, so we'll get him down here at times. The pop on those kicks is just doesn't make any sense. He's been on Joe Rogan and stuff before. A very, very good fighter. His main thing is an elbow. This guy throws an elbow at you, and you're toast. But he went from the rolling, where the effort was 80% maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went into sparring, and when he went into sparring, he did round after round. I think he probably did about 6 or 8 rounds of sparring like this, where he's hitting the gloves,
Mm-hmm.
and he did. He was working on punches and kicks and different things like that, and then he immediately went from that, which none of it fazed him. He had no facial expression at all. Like, he wasn't tired. My friend Kieran was like worn the hell out just holding the mitts for him, holding the gloves for him. And then he immediately went from that to like coaching a practice. And so like in the 45 minutes that Josh and I were there, we watched him. He rolled, and it wasn't intensely. Plus, this is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
He's probably already there for 12 hours
Uh-huh.
or 10 hours or whatever. We didn't even see that part. And he just gets off the mat. Boom, he goes right into his striking, and boom, he rolled right into teaching a class. So it was awesome to kind of watch. But like the level of fitness that those kind of people need, and the accuracy that they need with their nutrition and with their sleep, and it's just another level of commitment. And me and Josh were actually talking about, fighting is probably the ultimate thing where you need, like, we talk about bodybuilding and how hard bodybuilding can be because of the nutrition aspect. When it comes to fighting, it's like you better have everything all together, your strength, your endurance. I mean, there's just so much to work on. You got to worry about someone kicking you in the head, so you can't just go in and shoot on somebody or kneeing you in the head.
Yeah.
It's like, man, there's no other sport that could be any more time consuming than that.
Fighting is the kind of thing where I look at, I'm like, I want to do it, but I'm like, I'm not going to. You know what I mean? Like, I may do the martial arts, like the jujitsu is awesome, but it's not like fighting. It's not like you're not getting punched in the face or kicked in the rib. That's different, you know? Eesh.
I don't know, man. I think you would be good at it.
I might be good, but I want to
think-
get hit.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have to. I don't know. Think of it this way: Daniel Cormier, right? Who just fought? He just lost, but Daniel Cormier is like top of the top, right? But he was 245.
Yeah.
How much do you weigh?
Like 245.
Yeah. It's a different 245. I'm not saying that you can fuck with Daniel Cormier. I'm just saying like a lot of heavyweights don't look like that.
Yeah.
A lot of heavyweights can't move like that. A lot of heavyweights, a lot of heavyweights are talented too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are super talented. So it's
Francis Ngannou.
Oh yeah, it's a freak show, right? Like it's a freak show of freak shows. But I think that Josh and I talked about this yesterday. I think that if you were to try it, you're pretty damn competitive. So I think that you would learn the skill sets enough to, like, I don't really picture you as a mean person. And I think that a fighter kind of has to have, a little meanness in you.
Yeah.
But I think that you have enough competitive spirit to where you could be mean enough to get the job done. And on top of that, I think that you would just be so fascinated with all the different skill sets that it takes that you would want, like George St. Pierre. I don't think George St. Pierre is a mean person, but George St. Pierre kills people. He destroys people. And it's because, same thing, he's fascinated with like the technique of it. So he, had to learn all the different moves and everything. But I think you'd love it. And we actually talked, when we talked to Cesar Gracie, he actually mentioned your coach, and he said that he helped him, I think, start one of his first gyms.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he did. I have no idea about that.
Pretty cool.
He actually just won Worlds this week in Casio, or yesterday, Masters Worlds.
We need to get him in here for a podcast.
Yeah, he went down an age bracket. So the age bracket.
He submitted everybody, right?
I think so. Yeah, went down the age bracket, won all his matches, and he cut 2 for it. So he killed. He killed.
Where's his gym at? So people that are listening, if anyone's in the area, can go check it out.
Yeah, so Casio has 2 locations, one in Carmichael, and then the other one in Roseville. So the Roseville school he teaches at, but the Carmichael school he teaches at more. Yeah.
Yeah, super cool stuff, man. Anything else, Andrew?
Just a reminder for Free Shirt Friday today.
Oh, Free Shirt Friday. Look at that.
Who's that?
Handsome.
It's a really good picture, whoever took
That
it.
guy's got a big head.
Yeah, kind
Big
of
old head.
pumpkin head.
Yeah, it's kind of shaped like that.
Free Shirt Friday, and then also shout out to we got some sponsors coming up. Super excited about that. These are good combinations. It's good to collaborate with some of these companies, and it's good to have some strong people behind us. We got certified Piedmontese coming in hot, so we're gonna have some great deals for you guys coming up. We'll announce those in the next few episodes, and then also Perfect Keto has jumped on board as well. So it's been a long time coming. I think it's great. It provides a lot more opportunity for this podcast to always get better, buy more equipment, get out to some different areas, get out to some different places, travel a little bit more, and it just provides some fun opportunities for us. Plus, we get to enjoy a bunch of free meat and some Perfect Keto bars and products, right?
I cannot wait for that meat, man. Oh God.
Yep.
That
Yeah, look at this cookbook.
It makes me so hungry right now. Oh God.
Okay.
Jackedcows.com. No, just kidding. Anyway, strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you all later.